I'm an old man now, but I will never forget that day. It happened many years ago, when I was a young man. Life was simple back then, but I often felt lonely. I had no family and lived alone in a small room in the city. Most of my days were spent working and walking alone through the streets. One rainy evening, I was walking home from work. The streets were wet, and the air was cold. I pulled my coat tightly around me and kept my head down, trying to stay warm. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. When I turned around, I saw a woman running toward me. She looked tired and scared. Her clothes were soaked from the rain, and her face was pale. "James," she cried out. "I finally found you." I was confused. My name wasn't James. But the way she looked at me, it was like she truly believed I was him. I didn't know what to say. She ran up to me and held my hand. Her eyes filled with tears. "James, I've been searching for you for so long," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. I froze. I didn't know how to react. I tried to explain, "I'm sorry, but I'm not James," but she didn't seem to hear me. She hugged me tightly, crying, "Please don't leave me again." I could feel her pain. My heart ached for her. I didn't know who she was, but I could see she had suffered a lot. The rain kept falling as we stood there. I didn't move or speak. I just let her hold me and cry. Her sadness touched something deep inside me. It reminded me of my own loneliness. For a moment, I even thought about pretending to be James, just to give her some peace. Her tears soaked into my coat as she clung to me. I stood still, unsure of what to do. Her pain felt heavy, like a stone on my chest. "I've been alone for so long, James," she whispered. "I thought I lost you forever." Her words broke my heart. Gently, I pulled away and looked into her eyes. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "I think you've made a mistake. My name isn't James." Her face changed. Hope turned into confusion. She stared at me, trying to understand. "No," she said, shaking her head. "You look just like him. You must be James. You can't be anyone else." Her voice was full of desperation. I could see the pain in her eyes, and it made me feel guilty, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. She stepped back and wiped her tears. The rain still poured, soaking her hair. "If you're not James," she asked quietly, "then who are you?" I told her my name, but it didn't seem to matter to her. She just stood there, silent and lost. I didn't know what to do. A part of me wanted to walk away, but I couldn't leave her like that. I felt her pain. It was the same pain I knew too well. "Can I help you?" I asked gently. "Do you need anything?" She slowly shook her head. "I thought I'd found him," she said softly. "James was my brother. He disappeared many years ago. I've been looking for him ever since." Her voice broke as she spoke, and I saw how heavy her grief was. The street was quiet except for the sound of the rain. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to comfort her, but I didn't have the words. So I said, "Let's get out of the rain. There's a small cafe nearby. We can sit and talk." She hesitated, then nodded. We walked together in silence. The warm light of the cafe was comforting after the cold outside. We sat at a small table by the window. She stared at her trembling hands. I ordered 2 cups of tea and waited. After a while, she looked at me. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to scare you. You just reminded me so much of him." "It's okay," I said. "I can see how much he meant to you." Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time, a small smile appeared on her face. The cafe felt warm, but her sadness was still there. I didn't know her whole story yet, but I could feel it was filled with pain and loss. The tea arrived, and we sat quietly. She held the cup with both hands, trying to stop them from shaking. Her eyes still held sadness, but there was also a small glimmer of hope. I gently asked, "Can you tell me about James?" She looked up, surprised, then nodded. "James was my older brother," she began softly. "He was always kind and protective. When I was scared, he would hold my hand and tell me everything would be okay." Her voice trembled, but she continued, "One day, he left to find work in another town. He promised he'd come back soon, but he never did. My family waited, but we heard nothing. We searched everywhere, but it was like he disappeared." She paused and wiped her eyes. "That was 10 years ago." I sat in silence. I didn't know what to say. Her story was filled with pain and unanswered questions. "I'm so sorry," I said gently. "It must have been very hard for you and your family," she nodded slowly. "It was. My parents passed away a few years later, still hoping he would come back." Her words touched me deeply. I thought about how lonely she must have felt all these years, searching for someone she loved. I also thought about my own life, how I had no one waiting for me. In that moment, I felt a deep connection to her pain. She looked at me with sad eyes and said, "When I saw you on the street, I thought my prayers were finally answered. You look so much like him. I thought it was finally over." But now, her voice faded away, and she stared down at her cup of tea. I wanted to help her, but I didn't know how. "Do you have anything that belonged to James?" I asked. "Maybe something that helps you remember him?" She slowly reached into her bag and pulled out an old photograph. The picture was faded with time, but I could see a young man smiling, and a little girl beside him. She pointed. "That's James. And that's me when I was a child." I looked closely at the photo. The man did look a little like me, but I could see the differences too. I handed the photo back to her with care. "You've been so brave to keep looking for him all these years," I said. "Not everyone has that kind of strength." She smiled weakly. "I don't know if it's bravery. Or just desperation. I can't let go of the hope that he's still out there somewhere." The cafe grew quieter as the evening went on. The rain outside had stopped, but dark clouds still filled the sky. We sat together in silence. I could feel her sorrow as if it was my own. The warmth of the tea in my hands gave me a small bit of comfort. I looked at her face. She looked tired and full of sorrow. She stared out the window, lost in thought. I didn't want her to feel alone, even if I couldn't be the person she was looking for. "I know this might sound strange," I said gently, "but I think James would want you to keep going, no matter what." She turned toward me with a small, sad smile. "You think so?" I nodded. "If he loved you as much as you love him, he'd want you to be happy, even if he couldn't be here." She sighed deeply. "I've tried to move on. But it's so hard. Every time I see someone who looks like him, my heart skips a beat. I think, maybe this time, it's him. But it never is." Her voice broke as she finished, and I felt a deep sadness in my chest. After a moment, I asked, "Have you ever thought about what you would say to him if you found him?" She looked down at her trembling hands. "I'd tell him that I missed him every day. I'd tell him I forgave him for leaving. And that I just wanted to see him one last time." Her words stayed with me. I thought about the people I had lost too, so many things I never got to say. "Sometimes," I said slowly, "we carry the weight of things we can't change. But even if James isn't here, the love you have for him is still real. That love will always stay with you." She nodded, and for the first time, I saw a bit of peace in her eyes. "Maybe you're right," she whispered. "Maybe it's time to stop searching. And start remembering him in my heart." Her words were heavy, like she was finally letting go of a burden she had carried for years. We sat in silence, listening to the soft sound of rain outside. I didn't know if I had truly helped her, but I hoped that sharing her story had eased her pain, even just a little. as the sky grew darker, she reached across the table and gently took my hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "Thank you for listening. I don't know why, but talking to you felt like talking to him. Maybe that's what I needed all along." I felt a lump in my throat and managed to say, "I'm glad I could help." She smiled, a real, warm smile, and it lit up the cold corners of the cafe. When we finally stepped outside, the rain had stopped, and the streets were quiet. She looked at me one last time and said, "I'll never forget this night." Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the city. I stood there for a long time, watching the empty street. My heart was heavy, but also full. I knew I would never forget her story, or the pain in her voice. It reminded me that even strangers can share something deep and meaningful. The night was quiet. The air was cold, and the ground was still wet from the rain. I kept thinking about her story. It stayed with me like a quiet ache in my heart. I didn't even know her name, yet somehow, it felt like I had known her forever. That night, as I walked home, the city seemed different. The lights looked dimmer, the streets felt emptier. I couldn't stop wondering about her. Was she safe? Did she have somewhere warm to go? Or was she still walking the cold city streets, alone? When I reached my small room, I sat by the window. The sky was dark, covered in clouds. Not a single star in sight. Everything was still, except my thoughts. I kept seeing her face, those sad eyes, her trembling hands. I wished I could have done more. For the next few days, her voice echoed in my mind. She had spent so many years searching for someone she loved, only to get lost herself. It made me think about my own life, how I had no one waiting for me, how invisible I had felt for so long. One evening, I returned to the cafe. I sat at the same table, hoping she might come back. The waiter recognized me. "Waiting for someone?" he asked. I nodded but didn't say more. I just stared at the empty seat across from me. Hours passed, but she never came. On my way home, I realized something. She had given me a gift without even knowing it. Her story, her pain, her hope, they reminded me how deeply we all need connection. We were strangers, yet we had shared something real, something that would stay with me forever. That night, I pulled out an old notebook I hadn't touched in years. I started writing, about her, her search for James, and how her words had moved me. At first, the words came slow. But then, they poured out, as if they had been waiting inside me all along. As the weeks passed, I began seeing people differently. I looked at faces and wondered about their stories. I noticed the mother holding her child's hand. The old man sitting alone, the couple laughing under streetlights. Everyone, I realized, is carrying something: pain, love, memories. I never saw her again. But I often thought about her. I hoped she had found peace. I hoped she had stopped searching and started healing. Maybe, just maybe, our meeting helped her in some small way. Years passed, but that rainy night never left me. I still sit by my window sometimes, watching the stars, thinking of her. I never knew her name, but her story became part of mine. I remember her words, "I can't let go." At the time, I didn't truly understand. But now, as an old man, I do. Life has shown me that everyone is searching, for someone, for something. Sometimes we find it. Sometimes we don't. But the search changes us. It shapes us. It teaches us what truly matters. After that night, I saw the world with new eyes. I started noticing the little things, the quiet moments that make life beautiful. I never went back to the cafe again. Not because I didn't want to see her, but because I knew her purpose in my life was already fulfilled. She had given me something priceless, the understanding that even one moment, one conversation, one connection can change a life. Over the years, I wrote her story many times in that notebook. I added small details, imagined her life, tried to capture the feelings of that night. I wanted her memory to live on, not just for me, but for anyone who might one day read her story. Now, as I sit by my window and close my notebook for the last time, I think about what I'd say if I ever saw her again. I'd say thank you for reminding me that love and hope are powerful. Thank you for showing me that even a stranger can touch your soul. Her story became my story. And I carry it with me every day. It's a quiet reminder of that rainy night, a woman's sorrow, a stranger's kindness, and the bond that grew between two lost hearts.